Welcome everyone. The Rural City of Wangaratta live stream. Clause 24, and I actually officially open the meeting tonight, everyone. Clause 24 of the Governance Rules provides the following. This public meeting is being recorded to improve access to the meeting for our community. The recording will be published and retained by Council in accordance with Council's legal obligations. As a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. Number one is the acknowledgement to country, and it's my privilege to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of our wonderful country. Giving thanks to all our ancestors with vision, determination, innovation and resilience built our prosperous, inclusive, democratic country. We acknowledge that we are the proud inheritors of this legacy. We accept the challenge to continue to nourish and nurture our communities. And we pledge to work to implement and enhance opportunities for the benefit of future generations. Number two, our opening prayer. Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberations, so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve. Amen. We'll move now to item number 5, the acceptance of apologies and granting of leave of absence. And I believe that we need to grant some leave of absence.
Thanks, Bear. We'll be taking leave from the 15th of May to the 25th of June.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Benton. Councillors? Thank you, Councillor Fuller and Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillors, we all happy to see Councillor Benton go and take some well-earned leave? Yeah, that's right. Thank you. That's just been pessimistic. Number 7, the confirmation of minutes. We've got a recommendation, Council, that we read and confirm the minutes of the scheduled meeting of the 24th of March 2026 as a true and accurate record of the proceedings of the meeting. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move them with the amendment for 14.2 under the tender. We need to add the disclosure of the price for the minutes for those. Thank you.
That was overruled. Okay. With that alteration, is someone happy to second? Councillor Maxwell. Councillors, we're all in agreement? Thank you. Number 8, do we have any conflict of interest disclosures for tonight's meeting? No, thank you, councillors. Let's move to item number 9, which is receipt of petitions, and 9.1, which is the Appen Street pedestrian crossing. And I'll ask the Chief Executive Officer to speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor. Petition containing 366 signatures has been received, and the petition requests that Rural City of Wangaratta conduct an urgent safety assessment of pedestrian activity along Appen Street between Irwin Avenue and Wellington Street, and install appropriate marked pedestrian crossing in a suitable and safe location. And the recommendation is tabled. Councillors, that the petition regarding Appen Street pedestrian crossing be received, and that the petition be referred to the Chief Executive Officer for a report to the future council meeting.
Thank you, CEO. Councillors, would someone like to move that we receive the petition? It's a normal procedure, but the receipt is received, it sits on the table for a month, and then Council will provide a response back. So, Councillor Fitzpatrick, thank you. Move. Councillor Maxwell to second. Councillors, are we all in agreement? Thank you. We now move to councillor reports, and I did say I would say mine first, but I'll hand over to Councillor Winters, and she's going to give a report tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to take an opportunity to speak to the recent Victorian Local Governance Association, or VLGA, councillor census results, and what it tells us about the reality of being a councillor in Victoria. Firstly, to highlight the importance of data collection like this, and secondly, to help build a clearer understanding of the reality of local government. The census gives us a statewide snapshot of who councillors are, how they are working and what they are experiencing in the role, and it highlights aspects and challenges that are not always visible to the community. For example, one of the clearest findings from the 2025 councillor census is about time commitment. On average, councillors are spending around 39 hours a week on council duties, and that's equivalent to a full-time job. At the same time, around 74% of councillors also have paid employment and 43% have children under 18 living at home. So, for many of us, council work is being balanced alongside jobs, family responsibilities, sporting and community commitments. The average age of a councillor across Victoria sits in the mid-50s, with the largest proportion of councillors aged between 45 and 64. And while there are younger councillors, they remain in the minority. When you look at the time commitment of serving as a councillor, it starts to paint a picture as to why it can be particularly challenging for younger community members, people building careers, or raising families to step into these roles. These are often the people who will be the future leaders in our communities and who will bring important perspectives to decision making. The data reinforces that if we want a broader range of voices around the table, we need to better understand and acknowledge the barriers to participation. The other key area I want to speak to is behaviour towards councillors. The census shows that 59% of councillors have experienced threatening or intimidating behaviour from members of the public. Around half of all councillors they abuse from the public is a moderate to major issue, and when you look more closely at the data, the numbers are even more concerning. Around 50% of women councillors report experiencing bullying or non-sexual harassment, compared to about 25% of men. 13% of women reported experiencing sexual harassment, compared to 2% for men. And within council environments, nearly half of women councillors reported experiencing bullying from another councillor. This report shows a shift since COVID, where community engagement is happening online. While that has improved accessibility, it has also led to an increase in negative and at times more personal hostility directed towards councillors. Just last year, the Rural City of Mayoral endorsed the unreasonable conduct policy, and in September that sets out how council manages unreasonable, unsafe or persistently disruptive behaviour. The policy aims to protect staff and councillors while supporting a safe working environment. And these aren't isolated incidents, these are patterns being reported across the state and have a personal impact, with councillors reporting high levels of stress, anxiety and burnout. Some employed they are reconsidering whether to remain in the role because of the behaviour they experience. And this has broader implications. If people are experiencing hostility or harassment in these roles, it becomes harder to attract and retain a diverse group of community members to step forward and represent their communities. For me, this report is about transparency and sharing with the community a clear picture of what being a politician at the closest level of government to the community involves, particularly the amount of responsibility and some of the challenges that come with it. It also highlights the importance of continuing to build a community where people feel safe to participate in public and democratic life, whether that is attending meetings, asking questions, engaging in consultation, or stepping into leadership roles themselves. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Winters. You've certainly raised some interesting points tonight. Would someone like to move that we accept Councillor Winters' report? Councillor Fitzpatrick. Someone to second? Councillor Fuller. Is everybody in agreement? Happy to accept that? Thank you. I shall give my report now. I respect, well, I'm going to present my mayoral report. First off, to acknowledge the recent passing of two former councillors who served with the Wangaratta community. The Rural City of Wangaratta extends its condolences to the families and the loved ones of former councillors John Kevin Howard and Kieran Clem, and we acknowledge their service to local government and to the Wangaratta community. John Kevin Howard served as a councillor with the former City of Wangaratta prior to amalgamation and was mayor 1973 to 74 and again from 76 to 78. Councillor Clem served as a councillor of the Rural City of Wangaratta from the year 2000 to 2005 and also served with the former Shire of Wangaratta, also prior to amalgamation. The Rural City of Wangaratta acknowledges and appreciates their service to the local government and the community. The second part of my report will put the focus on a recent event, and I would like to say that the Royal City of Wangaratta formally acknowledges the significant work undertaken by the Oxley and district community to preserve and interpret a difficult but important part of our local history through the establishment of the Oxley Nurses Memorial at the Oxley Cenotaph. On the 28th of March 2026, bronze busts of Oxley Shire nurses and former residents Sister Dorothy Bud Elms and Sister Carolyn Carey Ennis were officially unveiled. The beautiful memorials recognise the roles these and other nurses played in the war and tells a story of great dedication and heroism. Both nurses were local women who lived in the district and served in the Australian Army as nurses in Singapore during World War II. Sister Elms and Sister Ennis were killed on Baker Island off the coast of Sumatra on the 14th of February 1942. Only one survivor, Sister Vivian Bullwinkle, survived to tell her horrific story. It's particularly important to acknowledge that this historic memorial and contribution to the community was organised and driven by the Oxley and district community with limited support from any tier of government or organisation, and truly reflects what can be achieved through the commitment and perseverance of local volunteers, families and descendants to remembrance and education. Despite the many hurdles and the needed funding, they made it happen. So well done to all involved. That's my work. Would someone like to move the executive? Councillor Benton and Councillor Fitzpatrick. Are we all in agreement, councillors? Thank you. We then move to item number 13.1, which is the updated S11 Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation. And I ask the Director of Corporate and Leisure to speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor. So in layperson's terms, Council holds a register of various Council officer names and their roles and the authorisations and appointments they have to hold particular legislative powers within the Council and in order to enact the regulatory and statutory and enforcement actions that are obligated and available to Council to undertake. So this report is to update that with the current and latest names of Council officers. So the recommendation is that Council adopts the S11 Instrument of Appointment and Authorisations March 2026, made under Section 11(1)(b) of the Local Government Act, authorises the CEO to execute the instrument on behalf of Council and notes that the instrument comes into force immediately upon execution. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll ask if anyone in the audience would like to ask a question to this particular agenda item. I understand it's a procedural matter, but it's often something that people want to understand a bit more about. So, no. So, councillors, we have a recommendation. Would someone like to move? Councillor Maxwell. Someone to second, please. Councillor Fuller. Councillor Maxwell, do you wish to speak to? Councillor Fuller, do you wish to speak?
Just another part of welcoming Matt to the group, so thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Councillor Fuller. So, councillors, Councillor Maxwell has moved, Councillor Fuller has seconded. Are we all in agreement? Thank you very much, councillors. We then move to the next item, which is 13.2, the loan agreement refinancing. And Director of Corporate and Leisure once again.
Thank you. So this is actually a purely administrative report. In about a year ago, or last June, Council adopted the annual budget for this financial year, and that budget included a decision to refinance 7.052 million of existing borrowings, and in particular a principal-only loan that was coming due in the coming month or two. So this report is giving the necessary approvals to actually implement the new refinancing to refinance those borrowings as required by the lender, to which in this case is the Treasurer of Victoria, to issue those funds to council. So the recommendation is that council authorises the CEO to enter into loan agreements on behalf of Wangaratta Rural City Council for any amount approved by the Treasurer of Victoria and where borrowings are included in council's adopted budget or an adopted revised budget, and authorises the finance manager to be a dual signatory, along with the CEO. Thank you.
Director Ridley, is there a question from the audience on this particular item? Could you please state your name? We've got a microphone coming, so yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Vivian King, I live in Milawa. I'm just curious about the signatories to be a dual signatory. Is that necessary on all of those items?
So the question was, is a dual signatory necessary? This particular approval is required specifically by the Treasury of Victoria to issue the borrowing, so it's not required for every type of borrowing we undertake, but to borrow from the Treasury of Victoria it is, and those rates are typically preferable to council to borrow through them.
Thank you. Is there another question from the audience? If not, councillors, we have a recommendation. Would someone like to move it? Councillor Benton, thank you. Would someone like to second? Councillor Maxwell, thank you. Councillor Benton, would you like to speak or ask a question on the recommendation?
The self-explanatory, this is the tidying up. What was announced in previous years, but the current year's budget. So we're just going to enact what we've already passed.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Councillor Maxwell, would you like to speak? Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillors, we have a recommendation moved by Councillor Benton and seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Are we all in agreement, councillors? Thank you. That's been approved. We now move to item number 14.1, which is budget variation request recycling curbside. And Director of Community and Infrastructure, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is presented to Council to seek a budget variation of $145,000, resulting in a revised forecast for this year of $1,445,000 for our curbside recycling contract. The changes to this budget there's multiple reasons for the changes to this budget, including some carryover expenditure from a late invoice from the contractor in June 2025, rise and fall adjustments that are applied under the contract, and then further rise and fall adjustments for the preceding year, which are also applied under the contract. The recommendation is that Council approve the budget variation, revising the forecast and the contract.
Thank you, Director Goonan. Is there a question from the audience on this particular item? If not, councillors, we have a recommendation. Would someone like to move to accept that? Councillor Benton, thank you. Councillor Winters, you would second. Thank you. Councillor Benton, would you like to speak?
Just would like to highlight the rise and fall, and might ask Director Goonan to just explain the community a little bit what that rise and fall means in the current climate with the fuel, the price of adjustment.
Yes, I can. So rise and fall is a common term within contracts that deals with material increases as a general rule. Contractors don't usually tell you about the fall, but definitely increases in material that are outside of the contractor's control. So we obviously know what's going on with fuel at the moment. This will impact the fuel, impact other things like rise and fall in contracts that include asphalt and those type of things. So that's where it's utilised.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Winters, speak. So, councillors, we've had a recommendation moved by Councillor Benton and seconded by Councillor Winters. Are we all in agreement, councillors? Thank you, that's been moved. We now move to item 18.1, which is the minutes of advisory committee meetings, and I'll ask the Chief Executive Officer to speak to that.
Thanks, Mayor. So, minutes of advisory committee meetings and committee reports reported to Council for information from the Arts and Culture and also the Youth Council advisory committees. So the recommendation is that Council makes the minutes of these advisory committees.
Thank you, CEO. Is there anyone who would like to speak to or ask a question on this particular item from the audience? If not, councillors, we now have a recommendation. Councillor Fitzpatrick and Councillor Winters to second. Councillor Fitzpatrick, would you like to speak? Councillor Winters?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the amazing amount of work that the Arts and Culture Committee and the Youth Council put into their roles. As one of the portfolio holders of Arts and Culture, I really appreciate their insights and lived experience and really value their role and what they do for Council. Thank you.
Very positive. Thank you, Councillor Winters. So, councillors, we have a recommendation now that's been moved by Councillor Fitzpatrick and seconded by Councillor Winters. Are we all in agreement? Thank you. Councillors, now we move to item, no notice of the motion, no urgent business. We have public question time, and I have two questions that were put forward for public question time. One question that was submitted by Wendy Topham, and Wendy asks, what happens to the glass that is collected in the purple bins? Whilst I am happy to be part of the process of recycling, I would like to know, which I think is a very reasonable question to ask. And the council will say that the glass material collected through the purple bin glass bins, or purple lidded glass bins, is transported to ASQ, Allstone quarries. The glass is crushed, cleaned and recycled for reuse in construction materials such as sand substitutes, concrete and asphalt products. Council officers are currently working on a project to create opportunities for recycled products to be used in local construction and infrastructure projects across Wangaratta, which then, of course, supports the circular economy approach. So, there's work being done in that space, but I think it's really pleasing that people are interested in what is actually happening. The second question was submitted by Adrian Fox, and Adrian asks, could you please give an update on the progress of the installation of the 10 parking machines in the CBD? And our response to that is that the procurement process for the 10 new parking payment machines approved by Council is being finalised, and we expect that the machines will be installed and operating by the end of June. So thank you for those questions. Now, is there a question or any questions from the audience tonight? Could you come forward and state your name and...
My name is Graham Gerald. I live out at Markwood. Today I was run by a member of the council, but didn't take his name down, which I should have, and asked me if I could meet with him on Yarrowby Road, which is adjacent to my property fence line, to discuss where a 22,000 litre fuel tank would be located. I said to him, I don't know anything about this. He said it's been in consultation with the CFA, and a request from the CFA, and in consultation with the people at Markwood. I know nothing of that. I have a few issues. I have no issue with putting more water at the bottom of any river.
So you said a fuel tank, or is it a water tank?
Water tank.
Yeah, right.
Water tank. I have no issue with putting it there, it's just where it is located, actually located.
Right.
We already have a bus stop and a mailbox stop on the corner before the intersection. That bus stop accommodates a very large bus of about 10 cars twice a day, every day. During the last fires that we had on Henley Ridge, that area was also an area where fire tankers located and stopped, parked, where water tankers stopped and parked, where fuel tankers stopped and parked. One of my questions is, that area there already does that job. Why would we put another area on Yarrabee Road, 80 metres away? Yarrabee Road is quite narrow there.
So you're saying to consolidate all into the one side?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a few things there, like traffic, like clogging up Yarrabee Road. There's 2 drains on the side of that road. Where he told me that the pad was going to go, and I said, how are you going to put it there? He said, just make a pad. Well, that pad's right on top of one drain that comes from under the road. There's another drain above that, which will run into that area. That then impinges on my property because the pad will then divert the water again, even more than what it is now, down into a boggy area that I have a problem with every winter.
Well, it doesn't sound like it's a good place. It's an operational issue, and Director Goonan might have to respond. Otherwise, we'll take it on notice and get back to you.
Yeah. Sounds like the team need to do some more consultation, so we'll make sure that happens. As I understand it, this funding is funding that we have every year that we hold over for requests from the CFA in particular to install tanks. But more than happy to continue the conversation and get it in the right spot.
Okay, thanks, Brian, for your question. Any other questions? Just state your name and question.
John Harper from Milawa. At one of the previous meetings that was conducted here, I raised the issue of parking in our small community. On weekends, particularly long weekends, it is almost impossible to walk up and down the bike trail because there are caravans parking and trailers parking, all going to the shops, which is great. That's good for the community. But there really needs to be something done about this. Could I ask Council to bring about an urgent review of this matter, please, before somebody is either injured or more, I think more likely, is that cars and vehicles will be damaged. Thank you.
Well, thank you, John, and we'll certainly take that on notice and hopefully provide some sort of feedback to you at another meeting.
Hello, my name is Shane Cunningham, and I also live on Yarrabee Road. And I guess one of the issues that came up is the consultation that was supposedly done with the residents in terms of a tank being supplied and the location. It didn't happen, the consultation component, because the neighbors, us being 2 of those, never heard of it before today.
Okay.
So I guess procedurally, that where it's located is critical right now as the process of why we chose decided to go there without actually consulting the people that were involved.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the intentions were good, but the execution wasn't so good.
Perfectly said.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Vivian?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I would like to ask for some more information about the census about councillors. Councillor Winter's report was quite disturbing in what they found. Is that a public document? And in particular, do you have percentages of women versus men as numbers, as a percentage of councillors?
Well, as you see, sitting around the table, and the rural city of Wangaratta has always been quite a diverse, well, since I've been involved in local government, it's been quite diverse and varied in terms of the people sitting at the table. I think what Councillor Winters has presented tonight gives a snapshot across the whole of Victoria. I would personally say that I'm not sure that the problems are as acute in regional and rural councils. They may be. We experience, I think, we're obviously, as councillors, we don't always agree, and debate can be robust, but I think in the main, around the table, it works very well. But I think what Councillor Winters, and I'll ask her to speak to, what she also said was about the feedback that you get from the public, which is a much more combative, perhaps, the entitlement often, the aggression that comes from the community is something that has changed in recent years, and that possibly is a reflection that people either don't understand or don't respect local government in the way that they may have in the past. Councillor Winters.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Vivian, for the question. I believe your question was about the demographic percentage of the people who responded to the census, and so it was an opt-in process that everyone, all the councils across Victoria could respond to. And in the report, there were 329 participants, 49% were women, 49% were men, and 2% identified as non-binary, self-described, or rather not say. It is a public document, and I'm more than happy to share it with you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Vivian. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, right here. So, 2 question limit.
Thank you, but one of the problems of getting old is you forget. Just following on from Anzac Day and commemorations and so on, we're made aware that Council does not give any discount to veterans if they don't hold a gold card. DVA are getting more and more now inclined to reject gold cards. They give you a white card which has what is called accepted conditions, and that can be a mile long. But it doesn't seem to register when you go to council to apply for a rate rebate. Given the fact that we're now getting concessions for cars and things like that, is that something that council could consider, please?
Thank you for your question, and certainly understand the pressures of the cost of living are placing on everybody at the moment. So the best approach to have, if there are challenges in payment of rates for a community member, is to contact Council's rates team, and there are various options available in terms of repayment plans that can ease the pressure and just put agreed payment terms in place. Rebates aren't typically the measure that's used because ultimately rates are effectively a tax, but the team are very ready to support community members in looking at kind of financial options to help ease that pressure.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Yes, state your name, please.
Peter, it's just regarding the petition administrator. How long does it take for a safety review to be done? And I don't know that many people obviously live around administrator from here, but you see every day a lot of kids running across that road, and a kid was hit in December by a car, and he was pretty lucky to be still here. And what is sort of the next process to that petition?
So the process for all petitions is that they are received at the next council meeting they can be, and then there's sort of 4 different options that council will have to deal with that petition. Some of them may just be to refer it to the CEO for a letter of response. Some may be to refer it to council and then come back to a future council meeting. So given we've decided to come back to a future council meeting, I would expect that we would have an outcome back to the main council meeting. It won't take very long for us to do a review and provide some data on supporting or not supporting a pedestrian crossing at that location, and that would come back to the main council meeting.
My biggest concern with that is that there is one going up in Willie's Fish and Chip Shop. There was reviews done that way at that end, and there's 2 kids school crossings on Willie's Road. for kids, but there's nothing down the Athens Street, like Joseph Haven area, and where there's 2 school kinders, the main road leads to the school there.
School crossings and pedestrian crossings are treated differently and funded differently. So, based, as I understand it, based on what's been requested here, we would be looking at a pedestrian crossing and priority pedestrian crossing. Those type of crossings you would see mainly through the CBD and busy traffic and pedestrian areas. So that there's some of the things that we'll take into account as we work our way through it. The single sum game of having to have a priority pedestrian crossing may end up being something more like, is there curb out stands, is there a way of making it at least more noticeable that there might be a crossing point. But there's a number of factors that go into that, and we'll make sure we're really clear about that when we come back with a response.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Any other questions? Yes.
My name's Helen, I'm from Yarrawonga Road, Marvel. And I think I need to start this question with acknowledging Hannah Clancy of the council's work that she's done for myself and Leisha, who lost her homes in the bushfires. And I suppose with that, there's probably 2 questions, but the 2 people who have lost their homes have had that support of Hannah, and we're just in the back of our minds wondering whether that's going to, it's a long process, and we're wondering how long that process, is the council going to continue that process of supporting us, whether it's through her or other areas, because it's not just a 1-year recovery for us, but also the whole area.
I understand that, Helen, and I'll ask Director Goonan, because I know he's been working diligently in that space.
Thanks very much for the feedback, Helen. And certainly pass that acknowledgement on to Hannah. She has quite enjoyed working through the process, as much as it hasn't been nice for the people involved. With this incident or any other incidents that Councillor called up to deal with, our support in that space doesn't stop. So you can call on Hannah and she will continue to try to support you in whatever way she can. That particular incident unfortunately fell below the threshold for emergency funding from the state government. We've continued to try to push for that, as I know Helen Haynes and others have as well, and we're getting nowhere, unfortunately. Council did also accept all of the fire debris waste for free from that fire. It was about $80,000 worth of material that went into our landfill from those fires, and still have some work to do on cleaning up and fixing up some roads and debris and bits and pieces there. So we don't see our role as stopping, albeit it will become more, it will rely on you more having contact with us rather than we're reaching out to you, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Helen.
Just another question on that. One of the things, I suppose, of our anxiety is that one of the accesses is via Bennett's Lane, and it's even worse now after the trucks came in and out. No one's saying we didn't want the trucks or the dozers, but that road is, I know that the farmers and the people that access have been, I've had enough on my plate, but just wondering whether that can be attended to, because it hasn't been attended to for quite some time, and the damage, because of the fire recovery and because of the fire fighting, but it also just adds another layer of anxiety to the residents. If we have another fire, that's our access road's pretty horrible.
Completely agree. I'm going to give you a really horrible bureaucratic answer to start with, and then we can move on from that. Ultimately, unfortunately, the way these things are funded is we can't fix that road until we get approval to fix it from the funding body. We now understand that we're not going to get anywhere with trying to push that. We've put in place a couple of projects that will start, hoping within the next month, to tidy up that. There's also quite a bit of trees that we've cut down that we need to tidy up. There's quite a bit of silt in the drains because we've obviously had some rain not long after that have clogged, so there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done along there, and it's in a program to happen. I understand the stress it causes, but it is definitely programmed.
Thank you, Director Goonan. Any other questions from the audience? If not, we now move to item 22, which is confidential business. And before we need to move that we go into camera, I suggest that everyone go and help themselves to a cup of tea and a sandwich. While we go into camera, we need to move that we close this meeting and move into camera.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move that Council resolves to close the meeting to members of the public in accordance with Division 3.1 of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider the following items. 22.1, supported home pricing update. Item 22.1 is confidential under the Local Government Act as it contains information relating to council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released.
Thank you, Councillor Foyle. Would someone like to second Councillor Benton? Thank you. Now we'll move into camera, everyone. I think we're all in agreement. Yes. Thank you. Councillors, now we have to have a report back from confidential business. We need to formally open the meeting in order to close it. So, Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move a motion to reopen the standard meeting in order to close it. Thank you.
Someone to second, please. Councillor Winters. Councillors, we're all happy to do that. Thank you. Meeting is formally closed, and thank you for your attendance, everyone.
Thank you.